You know what's worse than a bad idea is a copy of a bad idea. And what we see is when people usually talk about parallel economy, they're talking about just creating something else that's running parallel to the bad idea that's already happening. When we started Give, Send, Go, my brother and I, 10 years ago, it's 10 years ago in October that we had our launch of Give, Send, Go. We are now in 80 countries around the world, standing for people's freedom and sharing hope. We didn't want our fundraising platform just to be about funding me, Go Fund Me. We wanted to be about looking outward to the needs of our communities and sharing hope with them. So we started Give, Send, Go as a place where help and hope could go together. Little did we know, Canada, that you would be such a problem for us. A few years ago, there was a trucker convoy you all know. We now all know too, because we saw GoFundMe raise a lot of money, then decide to shut it down, and then decide to say, oh, we'll just keep the money and give it to people we want. I'd love to have been in that board meeting. Who decided that? People went crazy, were not happy, and then they flooded to Give, Send, Go. And we had half the world loving us and half the world trying to take us down for allowing fundraising for a peaceful protest that needed to happen to let people's voices be heard. Now, some of the things you might not know, and I only have 10 minutes to tell this whole story, so I'm going to speak really quickly. But some of the things you don't know, 2 months before the trucker convoy happened, our sister who was doing some bookkeeping for us came up and said, hey, you know, you've been in the news a little bit. Maybe you should buy this cybersecurity policy. $1,500. We're like, yeah, probably a good idea. 2 months later, the truckers come, start a campaign, and a group called Anonymous decided to hack us and release names and emails of our donors. I was actually in Cancun at the time on a sister's trip that I had planned a year earlier, and I get a call from my brother. It's Super Bowl Sunday. I'm in this place trying to watch the Super Bowl in Cancun. It's so loud in the sports bar type place, and my brother, Jacob, he's like, hey, Heather, the site is frozen. And it literally frozen. It's playing the Frozen music. Because they hacked our site, they were streaming names across it and playing the Frozen music. And they said, if we can't freeze the funds coming in, because we said, we're not stopping. We're not gonna let you freeze these funds. We're gonna freeze your website. And so then we had to start figuring that out. We took the website down real quick. We heard this guy named Audrey Cottle. Remember that name? Audrey Cottle, who said, he made a video. He looked crazy and he said, I hacked Give, Send, Go, ah! No one wanted to do anything about it. We go through this whole process of figuring out how he got in, how we can protect ourselves in the future, and we then, at the same time, have to speak in front of Parliament about why we didn't just shut this campaign down when GoFundMe and PayPal did. And we said, you know, me and my brother, we're 2 of 12 kids. We said, you're not the boss of us. That's what we always grew up saying, you know, when our siblings try to boss us around. You're not the boss of us. We stood for freedom. We're going to allow. If you don't allow protest, then don't call yourself a democracy, because protest is fundamental to democracy. And everything we saw was showing that this was a peaceful protest. Well, let's fast forward a few months. Our site is back up and running. We've had to speak in front of Parliament. And we get a knock on the door, and they serve us some papers saying we are now involved in we are defendants in a $300 million lawsuit from the citizens of Ottawa who are going to sue us. Now, let me back up just for a second, because what happened is that money, that almost $13 million that was raised, we sent a few million across to the bank account that was attached to the account, and it got frozen immediately when it crossed the border. So we said, we're not going to move any more money. We're going to just we'll keep it in the U.S. while we figure this out, because we want to get the truckers the money. We're not going to give the government the money. And so we talked to lawyers. We had people offering to smuggle money across the border to give it to the truckers. Just give me the cash. I'll sneak it in my pockets across the border. We went through everything that we could think of and couldn't figure out a way, because Canada criminalized the funds from our campaigns. If anybody got caught with any of the funds from the Give, Send, Go campaigns, they would be marked as a criminal. So we did what we had to do, and we refunded the funds that we could back to the people because we wanted to protect our givers, because we knew it wasn't going into the hands of the truckers. But imagine that. We're now in a $300 million lawsuit for a protest we weren't even a part of, that never even got the money from the campaigns to help them protest. And Jacob and I are like, okay, what are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to do? And we said, you know what? We'll do what we have learned to do in this adventure called Give, Send, Go that God has given us. We're going to stop and not make a knee-jerk reaction. We're going to pray about it. And we said, all right, God, what do you want us to do? We have like a week to either submit a defense or default. And we're like, we could just let it default, let it come to play out in Canada, then come back to the US, and then they'd have to come through our process. We were leaning that way, and then we said, we only have a few days left. We have this lawyer contacting us, wanting to represent us. Let's pray about it, really spend the next few days. And Jacob went away in his RV, and he came back, and he said, Heather, this song just kept coming through my mind, and it says, the battle belongs to the Lord. And now we know this. As Christians, the battle belongs to the Lord. All of Give, Send, Go's testimony is that this battle that we're in belongs to the Lord, and we want to follow him and honor him in this. And so we have this decision we need to make, and Jacob's like, the battle belongs to the Lord. Where is that found in the Bible? I know it's this cool song, but where is it found? And guess what? He opened up to David and Goliath. And as David goes out on the field and goes to confront Goliath, he says, the battle belongs to the Lord. But he didn't just then stand there and wait for Goliath to fall. He picked up some stones, and he started to swing them. And he went into battle, not just for himself, but for all of Israel. And we said, you know what? God's calling us into battle. And we're not just going to do it for ourselves. There are 5 truckers that also were included in this lawsuit that we said, we'll cover your amount. Now, we were still just like a growing business, hiring people and trying to get all of this under control. And so all of a sudden, we called the lawyer and we said, okay, we're going to move forward. We feel like we're supposed to fight this, but how much is this going to cost? We haven't budgeted anything for this. Never in our wildest dreams that we would have to budget for this lawsuit, $300 million lawsuit. And the lawyer, as he does, well, it could be this and could be that. And he said, probably like $250,000 in the next year or so. Definitely not in our budget. And we said, well, the battle belongs to the Lord. And we hang up the phone, and we get off the phone, and we're talking. And less than 2 hours later, Jacob gets a phone call, unsolicited. He didn't make the phone call, he got the phone call. And it's that cybersecurity policy. When does insurance ever call you to tell you that they've settled? They don't. You have to call and call and call and find out where they are. They call us on the same day. And they said, we have a check for $260,000. Where would you like us to send it? And we said, the battle belongs to the Lord. He didn't even just say, I'll give you that $250,000. I'm actually going to throw a little extra in because I am your provider. You do not have to lose an ounce of sleep over here because the battle belongs to the Lord. Now, I told you to remember a name, and I'm going to finish with this. I don't know how much time I have. Well, I knew I had 10 minutes and I had a lot to say. So there was a guy named Aubrey Cottle. He was the hacker, and you might have seen him recently that he got caught hacking into the Texas database, Republican database for the heartbeat bill. And he got caught, and we were like, look at that. Can't say that I wasn't a little happy in the moment. Like, finally, someone caught this guy who bragged about taking us down. And so we went on social media. We're a little snarky sometimes if you follow our social media because we know life can be heavy. We like to add a little levity. So we tagged the guy, Aubrey, and we said, hey, Aubrey, did you know you can raise legal funds on Give, Send, Go for your legal defense? He actually responded with a little winky face, and he said, well played, well played. And then I heard that he had made something over on TikTok. So I went over to look at what his video was all about because he had been released on bail. I went over and I watch this video. And was a much more subdued young man. And he said to his fans who were watching him, hey, I just got out on bail. I don't know what's going to happen. But I just want you guys to know that whatever happens to me, if you guys could take care of my mom, she took in all my pets, and she lives on a pension, and she doesn't have the money for all of this. And so I brought that back to our team, and we started to talk. And we had recently formed what we called an outrageous generosity team. And we looked at each other and said, what would be more outrageous than blessing the mom of our enemy? This is what the Bible speaks on. The Bible speaks on looking different than everybody else. We don't want to be parallel. We want to be different. We should all be different. That's what will change our world. Loving our enemies, praying for those who persecute us. Let's look different in our lives. And so we have an ongoing few $100s every month being given to the mom of our enemy. And you know what? I don't even think this is the end of the story. Now, I can't tell you what the end is because that's a God thing. But I know it's just the middle, and I can't wait to see when either Aubrey comes and is part of our staff, or he becomes a Christian, or whatever God has in plan for this young man, because we are praying for him, and we ask that you do as well. Wouldn't that be amazing? I don't share this so that you'll clap for us or walk away with, whoa, those are just great stories. I share this because we're not called to live parallel to this world. We're called to live the opposite, standing in truth, so we can change the world. Here's a few marching orders as we get ready to leave. I know we still have a weekend left, but I want you to write these down. I want you to think about them. In your faith, don't stay silent. When the world says compromise, stand on truth, even when it costs you. And it will cost you. In your families, teach your children what the world won't. Have those conversations. Tell them the truth about God. Bring them to church. Live a life of faith within your family, in your private life. Talk to them about freedom and responsibility. In your communities, get involved locally. Show up at school board meetings. Support the leaders who stand for truth, even when it's unpopular. Use your voice. In your giving, the world will cancel, but the truth gives. Be intentional about where you invest your money and time. Be intentional. The Bible says, for God so loved the world that he what? He gave. He was generous, the ultimate gift of generosity. In your courage, don't retreat. Don't blend in. Choose to be a voice when the world pressures you to be quiet. This is what opposite looks like, and that is how transformation begins. Parallel copies, truth transforms. Let's transform. Thank you, guys.